Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not here to support errors. Errors take place. We have too many things that ultimately require validation. Legislation originated on both sides, or things that are failed to be taken care of in the right and proper way. And, we're always saying, lip service is always being paid. We need to do better. We need to be more careful, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I'm not saying that an error wasn't made back in 2006. But the truth is that, 15 years have passed. And, in that period, the GLP has been in office far longer than we have. More, I think it's like we've been in office 4 years and they've been in office 9, I think. So, it's, if we're going to apportion blame, apportion it in that way. But that's not really the point. The point really is an error was made. But the way in which it is being fixed is a bit absurd, because what really ought to happen is that the new Road Traffic Act should be brought into effect, and it will save lives. It's a much more modern road safety piece of legislation, and we need it. And, I think it's absolutely appalling that 3 years have passed after all that work, and it's still not in effect. And we have to be fixing this problem now, which would have been fixed in the Road Traffic Act of 2018 had it been brought into effect. It has not. So we have to be amending the 1938 Act, which was supposed to have been repealed in 2018. We're amending a repeal act to try and sort out this mess. Why it was such a rush to do so, I do not know. I don't know, what it is about this weekend, why we had to be trying to have the House sit on a Friday to pass this bill to impose these fees so that the right level tickets can be issued to motorists over the weekend. It just seemed to me a little bit absurd that we had to be rushing, and no justification for it was put forward by the government.
Okay, whereas I think it's clear that as you said, the fact that the new Road Traffic Act has not yet come into effect is an area of concern and must be an issue of concern and essential in this. The reason I asked you about the origin of this, though, is because of the related and wider issue of the way in which we go about our legislative process, the mistakes that we're seeing being made in various areas, and what I would argue, and many would argue, is in fact inappropriate way in which some of these things are brought into effect. So what are your thoughts on how we do better? Because this thing about executive order is inherently problematic.
I think that the Provisional Collection of Tax Act has been a source of many problems, because it enables things to be done very quickly, but they are not permanent. And then making them permanent is often overlooked. The orders expire. They're often renewed after they've already expired. And I think, quite frankly, it would be much better discipline if we didn't have the Provisional Collection of Tax Act. And if we want to put in a new tax measure, we pass a proper bill to do it. And it's permanent from it passes in Parliament. But that is, nobody has proposed that before, but I think really it would be a better way of proceeding, because it would force a certain discipline on lawmakers to ensure that what is done properly and done in a permanent way from the get-go.
All right, my colleagues are telling me that, in fact, Senator Brown did vote against the passage of the bill just now in the Senate.
Okay.
I'm nearly out of time, but very quickly, because you, in fact, also were raising a question in the lower house, in the House of Representatives, as to whether, in fact, what the government was doing was correct in any event. What was your concern, and does it persist?
In relation to this particular bill, I had a technical concern about Clause 2 of the bill, because it purported to say that they were amending the third schedule to the Road Traffic Act. When in fact, in my view, the appendix, which is where the penalties and the offences are listed, I don't think is part of the third schedule. The third schedule is addressed in Section 46 of the Road Traffic Act. The appendix is addressed in Section 116, and I don't think that the amendment was actually properly done, because I don't think it should have been an amendment to the third schedule. It should have been just an amendment to the appendix itself. But the Attorney General and the technical team disagreed, so they went ahead with it in its current form.
Okay, so now you've heard, at least from us, that Senator Brown did vote against the passage of the bill. Is that problematic?
No, not at all. We have in the Senate, I think we encourage some amount of independent thinking. I think that's generally accepted. There are matters where the whip would be enforced and so on, and try and get a uniform position. But on something like this, which is such a unusual way of doing things. If he felt strongly enough about it to vote against it, that's fine with me.
All right, going to leave it there. Thank you as always. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Dionne.